Eric Bolling, Melissa Francis, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. The showdown over Russia's alleged meddling in our country's election intensifies. Yesterday, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest charged that President-elect Donald Trump knew before the election that Russia was behind a series of hacks on Democrats during the campaign. That claim was later dismissed by Mr. Trump's team.
That is incredibly disappointing to hear from the podium of the White House press secretary, because he essentially stated that the president-elect had knowledge of this, maybe even fanned the flames. It's incredibly irresponsible, and I wonder if his boss, President Obama, agrees.
Earnest fired back at the press briefing earlier.
The Republican nominee for president was encouraging Russia to hack his opponent. Mr. Trump obviously knew that Russia was engaged in malicious cyber activity that was helping him and hurting Secretary Clinton's campaign. It might be time to not attack the intelligence community, but actually be supportive of a thorough, transparent, rigorous, non-political investigation into what exactly happened.
All right, so this intensifies the discussion about it and the allegations, it seems, that are wholly without merit.
So a couple of very, very important things happened. Now the CIA, and we're going to have a Peter King shot in a minute, but the CIA refused to provide someone to a House Intel Committee meeting that was going to take place tomorrow, so they canceled the meeting. What that means is it was behind closed doors, it was on the record, but the House Committee, the Intel Committee, wanted to know what evidence the CIA had to prove that the claim that their hacking or whatever, the Russian hacking, affected the election. And they didn't put someone forward, so they canceled that meeting. That's important because now there's more and more questions being raised. If the CIA does have this evidence, show us, especially when you have 50 or 55 electors who may want to see some of this evidence, but apparently CIA doesn't want to do it. Look, first it was Robbie Mook and John Podesta that caused the Hillary Clinton loss. Then it was James Comey. Then it was voter fraud. Now it's the Russians. They're just scraping the bottom of the barrel for excuses. They lost because Hillary Clinton was a flawed candidate. She came up with deplorables. And by the way, Obamacare happened at exactly the wrong time, the raise in the premiums.
All right, Melissa, welcome to the table.
Thank you. My question is, so if the Russians did it, then what do we do about it? You're sitting there, they have the same evidence they did before. They said themselves that there's nothing new. They just sort of put it all together and looked at it and feel like, yes, probably Russia was behind this. Not everyone agrees with that. But we've come to so many conclusions in the past 8 years of things that people have done, and we continue to do nothing about it, which is kind of how we saw the pile-on. If you go back to President Obama mocking Mitt Romney in the last set of debates, saying the 80s called and they want their foreign policy back because Mitt Romney said that Vladimir Putin was a real threat around the world. They haven't been taking Russia seriously from the beginning. Now, all of a sudden, Russia is the worst enemy in the world. Get in line. There's a whole bunch of really bad guys out there, including Russia, that we've let walk all over us.
All right, Greg, our Russian expert.
Yes, I love it when people walk all over me. It's really good for your back.
That's different.
Okay, the best part about this story is how it all began. It began as a vendetta against Putin. When Putin was ticked off at Hillary because Hillary questioned the legitimacy of his election. So what does he do? He undermines ours. And the lesson here is you don't mess with Putin. It's like his response is so out of proportion to the slight. She says this thing, and what does he do? He does this. It's like if you eat his lunch from the work fridge, he will poison your family. That's what we know from Putin. But to your point, what does America do? America has to respond to this the same way that they respond to terror, which is the greater goal is to prevent subversion of the system. You can't look at this as a partisan thing because, it hurt Hillary or it helped Trump. You have to look at it as an American thing. And the best thing we can do is a bipartisan investigation and increase our efforts in cybersecurity. If we publicly pick at this scab, that helps Russia. If we eat each other, cannibalize each other, have these internal fights, that benefits Russia and Putin. The better thing is for us to work together and figure out what happened and move on from there.
Well, but how about the fact that it's really irresponsible, echo Kellyanne Conway's comments, for the Obama administration to say that President-elect Trump knew specifically ahead of time that the Russians were hacking and this was going on. That's a pretty serious allegation, unfounded.
Kimberly?
It's irresponsible because it lacks any factual basis.
Can I offer a fact? I personally saw President-elect Trump say, Russia, go ahead, hack Hillary Clinton. That's what he said, isn't it?
That is, in fact,
not exactly what
That's
he
exactly
said.
what he
It's
said.
close to what he said.
That's exactly what he said.
Hey, I wonder if we can get
the 33,000 emails.
Deleted emails, yeah.
Russia hasn't turned them
But he
over.
didn't suggest that they go ahead and hack.
Look, he clearly, I don't know what you're trying to do here, but he clearly was in touch with the idea Russia was about hacking.
But here's the thing.
So, I mean, I don't
know
get,
they hacked? Do we know they
Look,
hacked?
here's what we know now, okay?
Because
so
the
in the
premise here is
last
that
week,
they hacked.
the Washington Post and the New York Times have said the hacking was done to swing the election to Trump.
Based on what?
Secondly, hang on, can I finish, please?
With no evidence of
Secondly,
voter fraud.
NBC and ABC are now saying that they have sources with direct access to the information that indicate that with a high level of confidence, Vladimir Putin was involved. Now, what you're saying about the Congressional Committee, Devin Nunes and House Intel, Devin Nunes has been told by the Director of National Intelligence, we're still finishing up our report. We're not going to give you an interim report while things are not fully formed. We are going to wait until the end.
That's
but
not
you
accurate,
have
though,
sources
Warren.
coming to
what you're claiming
media.
is not accurate.
Tell me.
The DNI is doing an oversight on what the CIA claims they have as evidence.
You're right. It's more than CIA. It's 17 intel agencies.
But no one has produced one bit of evidence, one shred of evidence yet.
Because this
you are
is just
talking
an
about
attempt,
something that you are trying to say
the
here is
election.
hard and fast. What you're seeing
the House
is,
Intel Committee would like to see it.
Look, what you've got here is an overwhelming amount of audience, amount of conclusion. That's what you're up against.
Yeah, because it's just an attempt to try to undermine the election.
That is to
results
try to
without any factual
politicize
basis.
it,
Let's
Kimberly.
wait and see. Okay, some lawmakers
Putin
on
definitely
Capitol
is trying to
Hill
undermine it.
are
That's what I
fuming
think.
after the heads of the CIA, the FBI, and the Director of National Intelligence refused to provide the latest information to Congress about the alleged hacking. Here's Congressman Peter King.
This is absolutely disgraceful. All we've heard from the intelligence community over the last several months is that they could not say that there was any attempt to undermine Hillary Clinton to help Donald Trump. The consensus was that there was an attempt by the Russians to put a cloud over the election. Well, that's what's happening right now. I don't think there is any conclusion that they're attempting to favor Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton. When they say the CIA has made this conclusion, who? There is someone there who is leaking this out. Why didn't they tell the House Intelligence Committee? That's their obligation.
All right, Melissa.
I mean, he said that a cloud over this election. I don't know if you guys remember, but there were a ton of clouds over this election coming from every different direction. All those emails that came out were emails that were actually written, and then they were put out there in the public. Okay, that is not a good thing. But one, I don't understand what you want to do about it. I mean, if we seated right here, right now, okay, someone who hated Hillary Clinton and was sympathetic to Russia, hacked these emails and released them to try and influence the election. What do you want to do? Bomb Russia? Like, what do you want to do? We're already trying to protect ourselves against Russia's hacking everything they can. So is Korea. So is China. I mean, all of our enemies are desperately trying to get into all of our computers all the time.
Two things
So
to
can
say,
we move
Melissa.
on to a solution?
I'm glad you said it because I want to come to a point where I really agree with you on something about here. But let me just say that what's become clear in recent days is that Russia was able to hack into the RNC, did not do it, right? According to Reince Priebus, they never actually penetrated, but had the capacity and then chose to go ahead, hack into
So what do you want to
DNC,
do about it? What do you want
and
to
then
do about
spread
it?
that information out a little
Where
bit
is
at a
the
time.
evidence
Now,
of
wait a
that,
second.
Warren?
Hang on. Then
You just
say
can't make a
listen,
claim like that
there
without
is,
any evidence.
If I was doing it of my own, you'd be so right. But it's not me. It's the intelligence community of our USA. And the idea that you would say, oh, suddenly this comes from the Trump camp. Oh, these are the same people that said there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. What kind of attack is
you're
that?
jumping to conclusions.
No, there's no jump. I'm
Of
simply
course
telling you what's
there's not one
what's right
shred
in
of
front of
evidence
us
tying
coming
the Russians
from
to a hacking
Okay,
into the DNC.
I'm just telling you that's what's coming. But I want to get back to Melissa. So the point to you, Melissa, is that right now the question is, what do we do about it? Because I think it was clear that they were going after Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. And I wish that President Obama had been more effective and willing to stand up and point to the Russians during this election.
So
and
what
punish
do you
them.
do about it?
Oh, and punish
Go retaliate.
It's because they don't like the outcome, and they had a horrible, corrupt candidate that was basically rejected by the majority of the country. And there's
That's
proof,
not true. The majority of the country voted for Clinton.
President-elect Donald Trump got 200 counties that Barack Obama did.
Yeah.
And he
how many
outperformed the
millions
last
of votes
two presidential
did Clinton get?
candidates, and there is zero evidence of voter fraud in this last U.S. presidential election. Facts.
How many millions of votes more did Clinton get?
Can we just cut the
What, in New
crap
York
here?
and
This is all team
California?
sport politics. Is it a coincidence that the people that are mad that Trump won are screaming about this, and the people that are happy Trump won just want to move on? That's what we're watching for the last 10 minutes. People who are happy Trump won are upset about an investigation. People who want Trump to lose want an investigation. But what I love about this is watching what happened to all the liberals who were so, they were anti-communists. They were the fellow travelers, the old communists of the last 40 years. Are they all now closet McCarthyites? They're all so anti-Russian. It's so bizarre. We've switched sides. Now the right embraces the Russians and the left are condemning them. My whole head's going to explode, or what's left of it.
Okay, well, there's very little left of it there, so please hold on to it. And let's deal with facts, Greg. Don't oversimplify by assuming that the statements made at this table are not ones that are based on
I'm just going by experience.
Facts and specifics.
Going by experience.
Facts and specifics and my CIA sources. You'll see coming up. How is President-elect Trump scoring with American voters so far? We'll reveal the results of the newest Fox News poll since the election next.
Some fresh new Fox News polls out today show a majority of American voters have low expectations for President-elect Donald Trump. Just 11% say he'll be one of our country's greatest presidents. 31% say he'll be one of the worst. By a 10% margin, more voters see the president-elect as a, quote, divider, end quote, than a, quote, uniter, end quote. And views on his cabinet picks, they're mixed. 44% approve, 46% disapprove. Seems like bad news, but could it be an opportunity for the president-elect to prove everyone wrong once again and get things done? Can he surpass expectations, Kimberly?
Well, of course he has, because he's repeatedly done it over and over again. He was up against 16 people, and it came down to him as the choice, and everybody said that he couldn't beat Hillary Clinton, and he did just that. So I would fully expect for him to exceed these low expectations that I think are not in keeping with what we've already seen the president-elect do. He's somebody who has jobs experience, wants to boost the economy, wants to get the military back in a strong position, wants to repeal and replace Obamacare, a lot of things that he wants to do, including an immigration that the voters actually said they want to see happen. So, yeah, I think he's going to exceed expectations. He's already starting to with his cabinet picks.
Erica, this is the biggest hole a president-elect has been in recent memory. You go back not only to Obama, but look back at President Bush, George W. Bush, look back at President Clinton. How do you explain? How do you understand what's going on here?
Well, they always start in the hole, and most of them end up at their highest approval rating as they're about to leave the White House. That's usually what happens.
No, that's not true. No.
Well, Bush did, and also
Clinton was way down when he was leaving.
Well, because of the economic conditions. But Obama is going out at near the highs.
Yeah, but he's up like 57 at the moment.
So President-elect Donald Trump has already gained 9% since the election on approval ratings, and it's probably because what's going on in the economy. They see people see jobs staying here. IBM announcing 25,000 jobs. Other companies saying they're staying. And I'll tell you what's going to happen in, I guess, maybe 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. People are going to open up their year-end summary of their 401ks, and they're going to say, wow, this is the best it's been in a really, really long time. So I think over time, Donald Trump, don't forget, Hillary Clinton was in just about the same disapproval over approval rating situation as well. I think either one of them were going to improve once president.
Usually what you see, Melissa, is that the person who's just been elected has a honeymoon, and everybody's just kind of rallying around them, and there's a feel-good jump on the bandwagon effect, but
Yeah,
instead,
not this time.
Yeah.
Not this time. To me, this is a little bit like when I have to leave the room and I leave the 6-year-old in charge of my baby, and if I come back and she's like in one piece, I'm ready to throw a parade for the 6-year-old. It's like a huge victory. Low expectations are a total gift. Being underestimated is a complete gift, because unless you really screw up and lose the baby, then you have, it looks like you've done a really great thing. So I don't know. I think this is a gift to him. I thought it was pretty funny when you look through. So everybody obviously voted for multiple terms, because up about at 50% or in the high 40s, hopeful, relieved, embarrassed, excited, empowered. I mean, that's quite a mix of emotions for people to be having about an incoming president.
Well, what you see, Greg, is usually right in the honeymoon period, things get higher, and then traditionally the standard approval rating, once they take office, drops about 10 points and starts to go down. Now, in this case, the hole is so deep that, where's he going to go?
Well, low expectations.
Deep holes are great holes. I always say this because everything great in life begins with low expectations. Think about Rocky. No one expected that movie to be any good. Or aspirin. Aspirin is great for everything. What about indoor plumbing? People are going, no, that'll never work. And lo and behold, indoor plumbing, it's almost everywhere, including here.
And the other one?
The Five.
The Five.
Remember, the reviews for The Five were, I give it 6 weeks. Remember Inside Cable News said that? I give it 6 weeks. What happened to that guy? He's homeless.
Yeah,
I don't know that. But anyway, you know what else?
6 years later.
You know what helps Trump also is the THD, Trump hysteria disorder. If you are constantly saying that something is evil and evil and evil, it's impossible for it to be actually that evil. Right. And so it can only be a pleasant surprise. And I've told this to my liberal friends. He's a centrist. You're going to be pleasantly surprised.
It's like the dentist. You worry about it until you get...
And then you get the laughing gas.
And then after, you feel so much better.
It's a great position for him to be in.
After you get drilled,
Are you telling me this is like a trip to the dentist?
Well, it's never as bad as you think it's going to be.
Oh, boy.
Juan's like Chicken Little. He's the Chicken Little of the Five. This guy
if
is
Greg's head is going to explode,
ending.
I just want to go to bed. I want to put the pillow over my head for the next 4 years.
A lot of people do.
Yeah. Up next, an update.
There's a big line at the deli for that one, folks.
Oh, my gosh. Delise is in the lead. The dire situation in Syria. Thousands being evacuated from Aleppo. Who's to blame for the humanitarian disaster there? More on that when we return.
Oh, my God, your wife?
Now an update on the humanitarian crisis in Syria. Evacuations have begun as thousands of trapped civilians and fighters try and leave the war-torn city of Aleppo. A ceasefire appears to be holding for now, but much of eastern Aleppo has been reduced to rubble. Juan, I'll start with you. I mean, it's amazing to watch. I mean, it's heartbreaking. It's a lot of talk in every direction. No one's doing anything.
Right, and I think the LA Times got it right. They had an editorial this morning that said it's a stain on the world's conscience, but I think it's particularly a stain on America's conscience because of our inaction, that we have not been key players here. Now, the contrary response is, yes, Russia and Iran have been the key players because they see a military interest. The United States, there's so many moments at which I thought we could have taken a stand and failed to do so.
But
and now, I just want to say one last thing, Eric, before you go, that in this Christmas season, to see these videos of the children, there's one where a child is talking about being trapped in an underground orphanage and says, I just want to live like every other child. It's just heartbreaking.
Absolutely heartbreaking, stunning pictures and video coming out of there. However, I will say, Juan, I don't agree with you. I think if you believe that, what you just said, President Obama is the cause, then, is the reason some of these pictures we're seeing what we see. He's the one who drew the chemical red line. They were the ones who violated the chemical red line. That was the opportunity to take action against Syria, and Russia wouldn't have been able to do what they're doing right now. I don't believe that. That's not my world. I would say that would be a response to you. I believe Samantha Power is right. Diplomatic pressure. I think sanctions are right. I think humanitarian aid is right. I'm just not in the camp that says we need to send military aid there.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, you just said we had a chance.
No, we had a chance to take. Let Greg talk.
Well, I think it is Obama's fault I think his foreign policy was legacy. This is all about the Iran deal. He didn't want to screw up the Iran deal, right? So he didn't want to put any bodies in there. And I believe that if you believe in human rights, you got to walk the walk. You can't say, oh, poor people, but we can't help you. We got to help you. But I do believe that this is part and parcel, a single-minded obsession with legacy that prevented our action. And we look at this now, but it's like we just sit there, we go, well, lucky it ain't us. We were born here.
Yeah, well, listen, this is a staying on President Obama's legacy. This has his DNA all over it. He had a choice and a chance to make a difference to prevent this horrible humanitarian crisis. This is an example that you're looking at right there of his feckless foreign policy, his inability to act that has resulted in needless, senseless humanitarian violations and genocide, and nobody should feel comfortable as you look at those images and you see those videos of what's happening there in Aleppo and the loss of life and children being massacred and murdered and orphanages being hit. It is really shameful what's happened here, and we could have and should have done something about it. He cares more, though, about doing deals with state sponsors of terrorism like Iran than he cares about doing something here in Syria.
We should, basically get involved in another war?
No, that's why I agree with you on that, by the way.
He stood up and said everybody's willing to come to the table in Geneva except for Assad. I mean, that was his address today from the State Department, saying that during this ceasefire, he's trying to get everyone together to sit down for the first time in 5 years, and that the international community has to put pressure on everyone involved to get together and sit down at one table. And this ceasefire could turn into the end of the whole thing.
You know, Dana's not here today, but you know exactly what she would say. She would say, we didn't solve it at the source, which causes the migration chaos, which is destroying Europe. So we are going to deal with this problem, whether we like it or not.
It was our problem, and it still is. And you see it manifesting throughout Europe and the problems they're having. Just ask Angela Merkel and the rest of them that are suffering from this migrant problem.
There you go. Well, that was uplifting. Coming up, new details about that story of a Muslim teen who says she was attacked by a group of Trump supporters. There's a major update that has Greg very fired up. Stay tuned.
Don't worry, dude. It didn't happen. The whole thing was a hoax. Initially, 18-year-old Yasmin Saweed claimed she was attacked by those evil male Trump supporters who called her a terrorist and threatened her. It was so bad she had to write about it on Facebook, but it reeked of BS, because it was. So check out the latest BuzzFeed headline. Woman arrested for allegedly making up story of NY subway attack by Trump supporters. Now let's compare that to the first BuzzFeed headline of the incident. Drunk men yelling Donald Trump attempt to remove women's hijab on NYC subway. So do you notice what's missing there? No allegedly in the original headline. BuzzFeed was among many who bought the story hook, line, and stinker because they wanted their myth to be true that Trump voters gleefully attack innocent Muslims wherever they go. So they suspended skepticism and they enabled a lie. But what's even worse, Yasmin claimed there were so many witnesses, but none of them helped. So she didn't just waste valuable police time, she smeared an entire city. How stupid must a reporter be to not even question that lie, that no one helped or even took pictures with their camera phone? So we at Fox, we chased this story, we called the cops, we checked it out. Shame on you jackasses for not doing the same thing. As for Yasmin, everybody's going to say she has issues, but so does the media, who make these hoaxes an easy path for attention. Even now, when reporting this lie, they still claim it's an exception among real attacks, which is another lie. But that's our media, who takes fiction as fact because it fits their ghoulish assumptions. It's a hate crime against all of us. You know what drives me nuts, Kim?
Lots. They don't have time.
The subway. I think Melissa, I think the subway every morning, people would have acted up. That was the tell that it was false.
Well, people would have taken videos. I mean, because that's what we do. We don't necessarily help or get out there or do anything. You just immediately get out your camera and start taking videos. Look, you saw in one of the pictures that showed her, though, her head is shaved now, and she says that her family shaved her head because of what she had done and where she had actually been. You didn't see that in the article?
Yes.
And, I mean, I don't know. Who knows what's going on in this
but it's
woman's house, teenage
It's no, that's assault. If your parents shave your head, that's Muslim on Muslim crime. And that's what she's just calling attention to. Not Trump supporter crime, but if her parents forcibly shaved her head, that's actually a hate crime.
Okay. I mean, we don't know what the truth is with any of this. And so now she's not wearing the hijab. She's showing her shaved head. We don't know. This may be a woman with some serious psychological problems. What we do know is the other side of the spectrum has serious psychological problems is the dishonest media, who is putting forward a story like this when this woman says that this happened to her because they want, this is the kind of story that they want to be put forward. This is like comports with what they believe and what they want to put forward, and they've been very consistent doing this over and over and over again. That's why you have to check your facts.
Yeah. You know, Eric, I know that technically when you're 18, you're a teen. But I think that if she was doing something else, if she wasn't a victim, they would describe her as a young woman. But because she's a victim of Trump supporters, she's a teen.
Yeah, the bias, even in that. But again, fits the narrative, fits the narrative, fits the narrative. Think of the Rolling Stone. Remember that?
Yeah.
It fit the narrative so perfectly, they didn't even fact check whether or not these students were being raped or not, or there's just accusations. So here it is again. If it fits the narrative, apparently the fact checking, it gets a little easier on the fact checking.
Yeah, and Juan, you know why it is? It's like, even if this is the argument, even if one of them is false, if one of these stories is false, it's got to be true somewhere, so that's okay.
Well, here's the thing. I think, you said before, people are going to say she's just troubled, and that's the problem. I mean, Kimberly even said she looks like she's got some issues.
Well,
and then I saw in the paper.
Perhaps.
And then I saw in the paper.
I have issues.
Well, no, but you're one of us. And then I saw in the paper it said here that her older brother also made up an incident a while back. So
and her sister is vehemently anti-Trump. Writes about this.
What is going on?
Yeah, exactly.
But I will say this to you. I disagree with you about the larger pattern here. Because I saw a video, to pick up on Melissa's point, that people will take out their cameras, where a guy on an airplane, I think it was a Delta airplane, is screaming nasty stuff.
Saw that.
So I
think he was drunk and he didn't hurt a single person.
I don't know if he was drunk, but I'm telling you, he's calling names and standing up and calling people Clinton, all this.
There are drunk people on planes all the time.
Okay, fine.
I am one of them.
I've not seen you stand
You're
up.
You're compromised in more than one way.
But I think also, according to the articles, law enforcement agencies say there has been a spike in anti-Muslim violence over
There it is.
There
it is. Exactly what you said.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't matter if this is false.
If this is fake, somewhere it's going to happen. And it's happening.
I don't get your point. Because this one is fake, all are fake.
No, when you get nailed on having a story that you didn't fact check and is in fact wrong, they back off and say, well, this could be happening. Probably is.
There's a spike.
This is not probably. This is what the numbers show.
It's the Southern Poverty Law Center statistics, and they are not being questioned by the media. They aren't. They're just going, but wait, over here, look at all of this, and then nobody looks at it.
But law enforcement agencies across the country tally. That's what this story says. It's not law enforcement.
When they investigate, this is what happens.
Yeah, but they won't even call it out now. You just read in your monologue. They're saying allegedly who made it up. I mean, come on now. We already know. The truth is out. She faked it.
All right. Don't go anywhere. The Fastest 7 up next.
Welcome back. Time for... You know what? The fastest 7 minutes on television. 3 alluring stories. 7 alacritous minutes. 1 ardent host. First up, winning. We're going to win so much, your head is going to spin. We're going to get so tired of winning, we're going to win so much. Donald Trump is a fan of winning, but some Hollywood celebrities want to stop him from doing it. Okay, Gregory, wouldn't the eminent degree of required qualifications be the votes?
Yes. Getting political advice from Martin Sheen is like getting STD advice from his son. Look, celebrity videos, I call them opposite influencers. If you want to cement a Trump presidency, continue to do this. You're only helping him because people hear this and it turns them off.
Melissa, you're part of that world? Former part of that world?
You know what? Martin Sheen played my dad in a movie once.
Did he?
He's a lovely human being.
He's a great guy.
I don't want to say anything mean against him. But celebrities didn't convince the voters the first time around. So I don't know if it's going to work this time, but he's lovely.
Juanito?
Well, they have fewer people to convince. I think, what is it, 538? That's the number of electors.
538
electors. Right. And the question is, they've got some electors now who are called, by the way, the Hamilton Group or whatever, after Alexander Hamilton, who are trying to lead this. But they're both Democrats.
I think they have one Republican so far. KG, your thoughts on this one?
I mean, if it makes him feel better and he feels like he can sleep better at night, and, enjoy yourself.
Stay right there, KG, because this one is good. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the new chairman of the boardroom over at NBC's Celebrity Apprentice. Since he won't able to use Trump's tagline, "You're fired," what will Arnold use to fire celebrity apprentices?
Well, it could be "You're terminated," or "Hasta la vista, baby," or "Hit the road."
Yeah.
Or "Consider this a divorce." Or "Get to the chopper."
Okay, KG, which one's your favorite?
I love Arnold. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching this. It's a great show. I think he's going to do a superb job. You know, it's a very good choice and big shoes to fill. You know, so let's see how he kind of like reinvents it and keeps the brand going forward.
Which one do you like?
I like Hasta la Vista.
Me too.
That was
Yeah, it's
terrific.
cute.
Yeah.
But I would, knowing about Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't know him personally, but that the idea that you said the divorce one, I think, gosh, he's been through some. Is that what?
That's a rough one.
Is that what
Yeah,
was said?
that
I
was
don't
the
know.
joke. Yeah, that was-
You better, I think you
That's
should
not so
stay
good.
away from
Hasta
that.
la Vista.
Hasta la Vista is the
Hasta
best.
Hasta la Vista, yeah. I love that one.
It's a
What do you
crowd
think?
favorite.
Do you have another one? You have anything
I was
else?
trying to think of ones. I just kind of wish he had like Linda Hamilton on as one of the celebrities, because it could be a whole Terminator theme. They could all be Sarah Connors, and they have to run through the city.
You
and
think
try to-
I'm Sarah Connor
I
all the
think
time when you have
I
those
think
weird
you are.
dreams.
But I'm actually looking forward to this.
Okay, how about this one finally? It's a story we've covered here over and over. Driverless cars.
Yes!
And yesterday, Uber launched its self-driving service in San Francisco.
Wow.
But as you can see from this
Scary.
next tape, the Volvo on the right was caught jumping a red light and almost hit a pedestrian. But get this, Uber blamed the incident
here it
on
is.
human error, claiming the operator was driving. So, Greg, not driverless cars.
It is definitely human error. Machines are far better drivers and will eliminate the 38,000. There were 38,000 deaths in 2015, 8% increase. So what we're doing right now, the irony is we're going to report on like little things, but we don't report on the 38,000 deaths. And the 38,000 deaths, they're going to be reduced because of this. So we're going to have to deal with the little flaws here and there, but it's that giant arrow's fault.
Yeah, and the giant arrow. KG, there will be some deaths associated with driverless cars. We know this is a testing period, but as Greg points out aptly, that far fewer will happen with driverless cars than with
So we
cars with drivers.
should expect collateral damage in the form of roadkill.
You should, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually feel safer in a New York City cab.
You are crazy.
Wow.
You are nuts.
No, but I gotta say, so you know how in the family when somebody gets elderly and you say, I got to take away the
Driver's
car
license.
keys. Yeah, got to pull the drive. And they refuse because they want control.
Exactly.
They want to know that they are able to steer and manipulate, and they think they're just great. But the fact is, they're not.
Yeah.
And so emotionally, I'm just not into. I don't want to be in a driverless car. I'll feel like I'm out of control. I feel like I'm out of control in elevators.
Yeah,
Can I ask you
that's a
a
good comparison.
Yeah.
Elevators.
Can I ask you a business question? If you have a driverless car driving you around, do you have to pay car insurance?
I don't, that's a really interesting question. The owner of the car, I think, still has to pay car insurance. They talked about who would be liable if there was an accident and it was still the person who owned the car. We asked a lot of these questions. Somebody got
robot
pulled over
driving,
in a driverless car and they came because the car was going too slow and they came up to give the driverless car a ticket. That happened in San Francisco. I don't know. For me, it would be an improvement. Turns out the data indicates I'm not a great driver. I left my car at home this week because of an accident.
what happened?
But what Juan said, though, is you've stumbled blindly into the truth. Do you know that?
so rare for me.
People were
Rare.
people were so scared of taking elevators that's why they would have somebody in the elevator doing nothing because it made people feel better.
Imagine being a
Yes.
cop.
The elevator's
Imagine being
on a
cop.
track. It
How
can't
much-
collide with other elevators.
No, but
There's
it can.
nobody walking
Listen,
underneath
we don't need
the
to go into
elevator.
all of my
Electric
anxieties.
cars freak me
But I
out.
gotta tell you, elevators
Keyless
can
cars
fall.
freak me out.
Elevators fall. By the way, though,
I
on
got locked in
Eric's
the
question
elevator.
to you, so if I'm this Christmas season, having a few extra eggnogs, get in the back of a driverless car.
You're not liable.
There's going to be more drunks. More drunks because
Yeah,
you
of
can.
course.
But then they say that you're
But they won't
supposed
be
to
crashing.
take
They'll
over.
be fighting in the back of the car. Instead of crashing. One more thing. Next.
It's time now for one more thing, and it's also time for Kimberly's
Dating tips.
So sorry, Sarah, you are not part of that announcement. Okay, so this is very interesting. Let's talk about science, shall we, Greg?
Yes.
Let's talk about healthy relationships and what
Ooh.
can make you healthier and happier at home. For this, we don't go to this country for some reason. I don't know why. We're going to the researchers in London from the London School of Economics and 200,000 people around the world that they asked about different life events. They had them rank their changes in happiness on a scale of 1 through 10. So here's what didn't make people happy. Doubling a salary, it only boosted happiness by the tiniest bit. Having a partner raise happiness by nearly a full point, Greg. So I don't know why you're not happier. While losing a partner reduced happiness by the same amount, showing that I think money can't buy you love and or happiness. What do you think about that? Good, right?
It can buy you love by the hour.
Oh, no. Once again, ruining my one more thing.
Yes.
I mean, okay. Wow.
Thank you for that.
Thanks for that personal experience.
I'm just going to drink my coffee
I
right
don't have
now.
anything to say about this.
That was a Beckel callback. I think you made that joke once.
All right, Greg, I think you've used up your time as well.
All right, quickly then.
Nope.
Robot news. Okay. As you know about robots, they're not going to just take over the world by being ugly and mean. They're going to be adorable. They're going to be really cute. This came from Peggy Newick, sent it to me. You turn it on. But see how cute it is? And you're going to have it at home, and it's going to be like just around the house. And it's just going to fall over. That's me usually. And but anyway.
You don't even know how to work this.
Tell me about it. The robot as well. Anyway, my point is,
It's a
these are going to end up in all of your homes, and then what happens is they're going to download all your information, then they're going to join together and destroy you. Of course, he runs to Kimberly.
I mean, this is what happens.
Does that have a camera?
This is the one.
Yeah, it has a camera. You can take that home, by the way.
See, they really. Oh, you want a kiss?
Thank you, Peggy.
There you go. He doesn't want to go back to you.
Yes.
I
Knocked
try
him
to
out,
push him
Casey.
to. Yeah, he. All right, let me restart his robot heart.
That's
okay,
not
go
how
ahead.
it works.
Oh. All right, whatever, Eric.
Okay, I'll go very quickly. We're going to try something new. I just posted a question on Twitter, and I'll be on Twitter for the next 10 minutes answering, but I'll also pull some of your responses. And the question today is, who do you think lost the election for Hillary? Was it the Russians, or was it Hillary herself? Just take your for air tomorrow. So if you put it on here, you might be on air tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Juanito.
Well, as you know, mailboxes flood with Christmas cards this time of year. But one caught my eye. Check it out.
Check it out.
Now, here's the backstory. Ashley Sistrunk is in Colorado Springs with her 4 children. Her husband, Brandon, in the Air Force, deployed in Iraq. So Ashley came up with a great idea. She'd Photoshop Brandon into the family Christmas card, creating a group shot. So he got a friend to take a picture in Iraq. Ashley's mom took pictures of her and the kids in Colorado. And voila.
I love this.
What you see, a group shot. Wow. By the way, Brandon, he gets to come home in January. God bless.
Oh, and thank him and his family for the service. Okay, fantastic.
All right, really quick. It's almost Christmas, and you always open up a gift that you didn't really want, and you sit there and you're kind of smiling and trying to make the best of it. Well, Burger King has solved that problem. You can swap it for a Whopper. This is genius. It is in Miami Beach, Florida. You can also take a picture and hashtag it, and they'll give you a ticket for a new burger.
What if your gift is 2 Whoppers?
This is fabulous. I don't know. It just seems.
All right, we gotta go. Set your DVRs. Never miss a whatever. Special report is next.